I'm so glad that I really loved Scream 2. There were two things that maybe slightly irked me, one more important than the other, but they are both spoilers, so I'll discuss those at the very end with a spoiler warning. But there won't be any spoilers. For the most part, Scream 2 was released in 1997, and despite my big love of horror, I never really got into the Scream films. I guess it's because I started to watch horror after quite a few of the Screams came out, and I just never sat down to watch them all. I did see the first one, but quite a while ago. And before watching Scream 2, I did wonder if I would need to go back and watch the first Scream again. Would I remember everything? Would I need to know, specific details? I can answer that question, and the answer is no, I didn't need to go back and watch it. As long as you're aware of the general concept that somebody was dressing up as Ghostface and killing people within the student body, that's basically all you need to know. And we do have characters from that carried over, and I feel like Scream 2, just very quickly before I get in with the main narrative, which is very similar to Scream 1, I think Scream 2 did a very good job of recapping on the important details of the first Scream so that you don't actually need to go back and watch it if you haven't seen it in a while. But I would definitely recommend having at least seen the first Scream before watching this one, because it does carry on from the first one. But I will say the introduction to this was really long. There is a film being released that mimics the events in the first Scream film. They're capitalizing on it, and we get to see people in the movie theatre watching this film version of the events of Scream, if that makes sense. And somebody is, hurt. I won't say any more than that. But I will say that went on for far too long, and I thought, is the pacing going to be like this all the way through? But actually, once we got past that very long opening and the actual narrative properly kicked in, I thought the pacing was great. So basically, somebody is copycat killing in the style of Ghostface, and this is potentially inspired by the film, because obviously the events of the first film have passed. They decided to release a film to capitalise on that, and it seems like maybe somebody has seen that film and has decided to copycat kill. But who is it? That's obviously the ultimate question. Who is doing the killings this time? We have various characters carried over from the first film. I should point out there may be spoilers in this for the previous film, but I won't spoil anything in this film yet. But in particular, we have Sidney, Neve Campbell, Gale Weathers, Courteney Cox, and Dewey, played by David Arquette. And Sidney's life is at risk. It's made clear quite quickly that Sidney is going to be a target of this copycat killer. But who is it? I thought I knew. I don't want to tell you who I thought it was, because I don't want to tell you who it isn't. But I was pretty confident with who I thought it was, and I'm okay to say that actually I was wrong. It wasn't who I thought, and who it was made a lot of sense. I wish it had been the person I thought, because I just feel like the reason I thought it was that person also made a lot of sense. But no, when it was revealed, I thought, yeah, this makes sense. I get it. It doesn't feel forced. Sometimes you get, mysteries or murder mysteries where the killer is revealed and you just think, well, that's got nothing to do with anything. There was never anybody ever going to think it was that person. What are you doing? Not the case here at all. I feel like it's very well written. The narrative is very well told. Obviously, there are some jump scares, but I feel like there are not as many jump scares as I was perhaps expecting, which is something I really appreciate. Not that I don't like jump scares, but I feel like some horror films rely on them too much in replacement for a decent narrative. But actually here we have a really gorgeous narrative that I really bought into very quickly, and I absolutely adored it. Definitely worth watching if you're a horror fan. I'm sad that it's taken me this long to watch it, but the reason I wanted to watch it is because I want to see the new Scream. I think when the last Scream came out, I did kind of intend on watching them, but I just didn't get around to it. But I've made the commitment, partly because I've also got Paramount on Amazon Prime at the moment. I've got a subscription with that for something else, and it's on there. So I thought, well, I might as well make the most of what I'm paying for. So if you do want to watch them and you have Amazon Prime, if you get the Paramount subscription, I think all of them are on there, apart from the new one, obviously. But I'm looking forward to it. So, I guess the spoilers from now, I'm still not going to spoil who it was, but I will mention a couple of specific things that kind of irritated me, one more than the other. But I'm just going to say, if you haven't seen the film, I advise you to stop listening now. Check out the film, let me know what you think of it. Please, no spoilers for the third film, but I am going to watch the third film probably tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. But okay, spoilers from now, just these little things. One thing that really annoyed me is when, as I said, spoilers. I always feel really bad talking about spoilers, but I've given a spoiler warning. When Sidney shoots the killer in the head just to make sure, she then threw the gun on the floor. And like, if you're that concerned that you have to shoot somebody in the head to make sure they're dead, why would you throw your weapon towards them? That's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, she's been shot in the head. It's pretty likely she's dead. But why would you take that risk? You never know. I mean, as I said, very unlikely. But you wouldn't just throw your gun down towards the person who just tried to kill you. That was a really stupid thing for her to do. The other thing that I didn't like, but I liked, is that, and this is a big spoiler, is that Dewey survived. Now, I'm not saying I didn't want him to survive, because he's a great character. I think he's really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with him in the next films. But I don't believe he would have survived. That was a brutal, brutal attack. And I really don't think there's, especially given how long he would have been there for. Like, he would have, even if he hadn't died instantly, he would have bled to death. Absolutely. So I feel like that was very unrealistic. But apparently, I did a bit of Googling about it afterwards just to see. And apparently, Dewey surviving was actually an alternative ending, because he'd been written out, but in case test audiences decided that they actually wanted the character to survive, they'd actually filmed him being put in the ambulance, just in case that's what audiences would have preferred. So apparently that's what audiences wanted. And as I said, I kind of want that. Yeah, I want him to survive. I didn't want him. I was shocked when that happened. But in terms of being realistic, I don't think he should have survived. So that bit, I don't know, I'm in two minds. I like that he survived, but I don't like that it's not realistic. I mean, maybe there's a whisker of a chance that he could have survived that, but given how brutal the attack was, I feel like if he hadn't died instantly, I think he would have bled to death. I'd have to go back and watch that scene and see exactly whereabout he was stabbed and cut, and if he was slashed anywhere. But just based on what I remember of that scene, yeah, it's unrealistic. However, I'm glad we've got Dewey for the next film. Well, I'm assuming he's in the next film, otherwise what would be the point in surviving? Really looking forward to it. I've talked about this film for nearly 10 minutes. My videos are not normally this long. Needless to say, very excited to watch the next film. Really thoroughly enjoyed Scream 2. Hopefully I can keep up this excitement to towards the new film. But if you haven't seen Scream 2, then I'm sorry for just spoiling the bit about Dewey. But yeah, absolutely one I recommend.